This is the Richard Schwartz Show. One call, that's all. I'm your host, Gerald Crawford. I'm in with Brett Ferguson. Brett, introduce yourself.
Well, like you said, my name's Brett. I've been with the firm for about 15 years. The firm. The one and only.
15 years. Oh, my God.
I know. I had a lot less gray hair when I started. I did still have 3 kids, but...
Wow, 15 years, man. And look, you have been a valued member of the firm, and we're glad to have
Gerald,
you.
You're just saying that because all these people are listening, and I appreciate it just the same.
No, I mean it. So we got a lot going on in Jackson and in the U.S. Where do we start? I guess we'll start with the showdown in L.A. News out of L.A., Brett, is that the National Guard has been called in because of political unrest or just unrest. Just wild things going on in America right now.
I was reading an article just a few minutes ago before we came in where this a reporter for some Australian news channel got shot in the leg with a rubber bullet, But
wow.
if you're a reporter on the front lines of anything, you're at risk of getting.
The thing about those protests and those people, I don't understand why they go to those rubber bullets. Have put out eyes. I
don't want to get shot by anything.
I know,
including a rubber bullet. That's not my idea of a great way to spend my weekend.
And those things look like it hurt to me. I mean, oh my God! So
the beanbag ones look rough too.
Oh yeah, the beanbags out of a shotgun. Yeah.
Oh wow! I mean,
and then they got the big net. It has like 18 beanbags around it, and then they shoot it at you.
Right, or pepper spray, or any of that.
That pepper spray! I got a pepper spray story for you.
Well, tell us the pepper spray story.
Oh man, it is an interesting story. So long before I journeyed into the law arena, I was a Domino's pizza driver.
Okay.
And one night I was delivering pizza, and I got called to an address it was an odd address, and so I went there anyway. I was like, hey, let's go ahead. Somebody want a pizza? Well, it turned out it was a robbery attempt.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. 3 young ladies and a young 12-year-old boy tried to rob me, and they pepper sprayed me with mace.
Were you in my hometown of Memphis?
No,
What's happened?
No. I was in Birmingham, Alabama. Well, here's the story about mace that you may not know. If it's cold enough, which it was freezing that night, the crystals will not burst. And so they sprayed me in my face, but the crystals didn't burst. Mm-hmm. And so I actually pursued them all across town in a movie type.
You were in a high-speed chase?
In a high-speed chase over a doggone pizza. Just to let you know what my life was at that point.
I mean, if this hasn't been made a movie or a sitcom,
I'm talking about we're taking lights. I'm talking about I'm ramming them. This is real movie stuff. So eventually, they try to take a light, and the car in front of them jammed on brakes, and they crash out. Mm-hmm. So they get out the car. Thank God they didn't have no gun. I don't know what the heck I was thinking about at the time. So I subdued one of them, and the car crashed out, and eventually the police showed up. And when the police got there, boy, they were full of jokes. I mean, it was one angry pizza guy right here. So, I mean, back to the mace. Well, eventually they were apprehended. They were taken into custody. They were charged with first-degree robbery and everything. Eventually, I let them go because I was like, look, I don't want to prosecute. It's 3 girls and a little boy. I probably should have prosecuted. Well, anyway, back to the mace story. Well, when I get home, remember I said it's cold outside.
Yeah.
When I get home, freezing in the heat, the crystals start busting in my eyes. I mean, I'm blind as a bat, crawling around the floor in my house. And I called my brother, and my brother does a research on how you get mace out of your eyes. Hey, are you ready for this?
Yeah. What's the solution?
Milk and honey.
Milk and honey.
Yeah.
I've heard milk. I didn't know the honey part.
Milk and
Yes,
honey.
milk and honey.
So did you just go to the? Did you crawl your way to the kitchen?
And felt for the milk, and I was able to get my eyes open for the honey, and eventually it worked. So yeah, you don't want to get maced.
You know, we are in the process of updating our attorney bios on our website, and if this doesn't make it in there,
No.
I mean you've opportunity missed.
You can eat that stuff like Benica now.
Oh, man, let me tell you something. Oh my God!
man.
But yeah, back to L.A., man. These pictures out of L.A. They're pretty.
I have a question
stunning.
for you guys because
Yes.
it made me think. I watch a lot of stuff from Steve Inman on Twitter where it's the perps are trying to rob somebody,
Right.
Or they're coming up and they hit a kid and somebody pops them, or you see somebody trying to do a car jacking and the car runs into the other car. That's where I'm leading with that. Okay,
Right.
so you're in a car and people stop in front of you and jump out of the car with guns, and you choose to go forward and run into that car. What is the liability for the car owner who is in the process of getting robbed, but they choose to create property damage in order to remove themselves from this equation? What happens?
Well, I would say the first thing there are circumstances that that you could are we talking about damage to the perp, or are we talking about?
I would start with property instead of the perp, because let's just say you got to get out of there and you go forward and run into the
Right.
car and push it out of the way, and you don't hit anybody but just that car. You've created. What's the liability, I guess?
I would still believe that, even though if you're hitting somebody else's car and, trust me, the insurance company for you is going to deny liability. They're going to be like, hey, my guy was being robbed and, we had to do this, and you're going to go, and the other guy will file a claim with their insurance company, and their insurance company will fix the car. But their insurance company is going to look for someone to reimburse them for the damages that they're paid. So if Brett is in front of me and and somebody's trying to rob me and I'm trying to get away from a robbery attempt and I hit Brett, now the insurance company, as far as liability for injuries or stuff like that to Brett, they'll probably say, look, this is the third guy's fault, and it's not Gerald's fault, and Brett, if he has good insurance, Brett would have uninsured motorists, and he would collect under that, I believe, under the uninsured motorist policy.
Right. I think some states probably do have an emergency sort of
Right.
response doctrine where if you are in fear for your life and you
Right.
are taking steps to evade that and you cause maybe injury or property damage to others, that you might not be held completely responsible. But I think in all of those situations, the liability really lies on the person that caused the whole thing, which is the perpetrator.
It's
Now,
the perpetrator.
you get into the issue where that guy who's out there trying to rob folks doesn't have insurance,
That's
or any
right.
kind of assets to get after. But
Yeah, and that's where we come in, and this is really a great question because you really led into a great topic that we need to discuss more. Is more people need to understand underinsured and uninsured motorist insurance, and in this scenario, Brett would probably recover his property damage. Would be done by his insurance, more than likely. But his insurance may try to subrogate the property damage against me. Now, whether they'll have success in arbitration, we don't know. But what will not happen is my insurance company will not pay for the bodily injury to Brett, whatever Brett receives, because they're going to say, look, the person who caused this is this robber over here, so we're not paying for anything. And more than likely, they will have success with that. Brett's avenue to recovery for his bodily injury will come under the uninsured motorist, because at that point, you have to trigger uninsured motorists because they're going to say Gerald isn't liable, so he's uninsured for the purpose of this accident. And so, or look at the criminal, and we know no criminal walking around here with good insurance. Well, I wouldn't think. I mean, but when you get uninsured motorists, you need to get the best policy that you can afford to get. A lot of people in certain situations has $100,000, $300,000 liability, but a $25,000, $50,000 uninsured motorist. And in my opinion, that's just upside down. What you're doing with that policy, you're taking care of other folks, but you're not taking care of yourself. Because if somebody hit you and they don't have insurance, you're going to only be able to recover from your uninsured motorist. So that is a great topic. And when we come back from this break, I want to stay on that topic because a lot of Mississippians, good people, don't have enough uninsured motorists. So that's a great topic. So we're going to hit that when we get back. Last time we were talking about uninsured motorists and insurance coverage and why you should have it. And, me and Brett got to talking, and it turns out that we both have active cases similar to the example that was given to us. My case involves a man that hired a guy to come and wash his car. And the guy gave him the keys to the car to wash it and do it. It was just a little menial job. And the guy took his car and drove off without any approval or permission to use the car. Goes out and he crashed the vehicle into our client. Of course, the insurance companies have denied liability on both sides, so we end up suing everybody, including the criminal. Now, the crazy thing is we're having a hard time locating the criminals to get him served.
That's shocking, Gerald. I mean,
so, but eventually, what happened was we came to an agreement with the insurance companies. We agreed to let because we sued the owner of the car. We agreed to let him out, and we agreed to let his insurance out because my client's insurance, his uninsured motorist, agreed to extend coverage to my client for his bodily injury. So we're in a process of negotiating with the uninsured motorist. And like I was saying, uninsured motorists is so important. If you can afford to get the highest version of the uninsured motorist that you can afford to get, you should get it.
Right. You brought up the example about, a lot of people would have maybe 100, 300 for their liability coverage,
right,
but only 25, 50 trying to save some money on the UM side.
Right.
Well, a lot of people don't understand that if the person that hits you has $25,000 in insurance coverage and you got $100,000 in medical bills,
right,
and you only have 25, well, that offsets, and 25 is all you get.
It's all you get,
and that's
right.
why, like you said, it is important to have more.
Explain offset to the audience.
Right, so it's just a sort of a dollar for dollar offset. So what the tort fees, or the person that had the liability that caused your accident, if all they have is a minimum limits policy, $25,000, and all you have is $25,000 in UM, you cannot recover from your UM does not trigger, they say.
That's right.
And so then you're stuck with that 25 from the liability, and that's it.
That's it.
And then oftentimes we'll do an asset search against the defendant to see, do they have significant resources to where we could go get a jury verdict and get extra money? And a lot of times the answer is no.
I want to say 98% of Americans are what we call judgment proof.
Right.
And so what judgment proof is?
Not a lot of Elons out there.
Yeah. You need to get in a fight with. You need Elon to hit you if you want to deal with somebody who's not judgment proof. Elon definitely has personal assets that he could satisfy your injuries.
But if somebody pops you in the eye during a cabinet meeting. What is the recourse there? Huh? How does that work?
That is what we call
the
it.
Government health care steps
in Mississippi, he would have was an intentional tort. He has 1 year to file that claim against that person for popping him in the eye. And, now here's the problem for that person. we have a right to stand your ground. I mean,
and also if you talk about insurance, a lot of insurance, they're not going to cover an intentional tort.
That is absolutely.
That's not what it covers.
And so, what does an intentional tort mean exactly?
I intentionally punched you in your face.
So assault, battery.
It wasn't like an accident.
It was
Oopsie
not.
daisy, it didn't exist.
I intended to cause the harm, and most of what we do at Schwartz and Associates is we cover negligence. We cover things that happen not because you intended to harm people, but you were negligent in your action and you caused harm. And so insurance companies will cover negligence. Yeah, they'll even cover gross negligence. And that's driving on the highway drunk, speeding 30 miles over the speed limit. Insurance companies will cover gross negligence. They will not cover intentional torts. So if you pop somebody in the eye, you better have your own money. You need to have deep pockets.
Let's just say there in that cabinet meeting, instead of somebody popping him, he trips over some carpet,
right,
and then hits his head on, say, the table.
All right.
How does that work?
All right. Now we're dealing with premise liability. Okay. Now.
Or if we're all employees of the government, we may be dealing with a federal workers' compensation claim.
Or if we are at that point in time, I would think if you're at a high level cabinet meeting, you are an employee of the. So,
whether you're a special employee or not,
that's
you are
right.
employed
You're
by the
special.
United States government.
And so at that point in time, since you're an employee, I would think workers' comp would cover at the time. Now, you as a visitor, if you were there in that same carpet, it would, the fact pattern would have to be something like they knew. Sorry.
Well, Gerald is always available. He's always on call.
I give my number. I give my number to my clients so they can call me, and trust me, they take advantage of it too. I mean, call me at 10 at night like we buddies. So I mean, and I take the call. I take the call.
Yeah.
I gave you my number, so I take the call. But in this situation, we're talking about a fact pattern. Let's say me and Brett are visiting the White House, and the carpet in the Oval Office is bent, and it's bent in a way that it creates a hazard. Well, the question is, does the White House staff has knowledge that this hazard exists, and how long has the hazard existed? I mean, if the carpet just got bent over 10 minutes ago and they haven't had time to remedy it, you're going to have a hard time recovering. But if they know about it and they should have done something about it, then you have an opportunity to recover from that.
Or you have the situation where a lot of people out on the street maybe don't understand. I've had to explain this to clients. Well, they say the common example, well, I slipped and fell at McDonald's, so they have to pay me. Well, if you walked past the yellow warning wet floor sign, no, they have warned you.
Yeah.
They've warned you of a dangerous condition, and therefore they are no longer liable for you slipping and falling unless there's other facts.
Right. I mean, and so that is called adequate signage. The signage has warned you and give you proper notice that there's a hazard, and if you fail to take notice or take heed of the hazard, you're gonna,
you're at your own risk at that point.
Yeah,
Right.
you are.
Right.
You are. And
Like it says, don't feed the alligators, and there's adequate signage, and you feed the alligators, and then get your leg bitten off.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. So it's proper. You probably need to not feed alligators. I wouldn't be nowhere near alligator anyways.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan. I mean,
I just
those things are dinosaurs. All right, they've been around a long time.
Yeah, they've been around for a while for a reason.
Long
And they got a lot of teeth.
And
a lot of teeth.
Yeah,
and they are set in their ways.
Well, and I have friends that go alligator hunting, and
Really?
I've not done it before, and I do like to hunt and things like that. But the thought of being in a small John boat at night on the water, that's their territory, right?
Yeah.
If I fall out of that boat, I just
you're bait now.
You is Katie bar the door.
My grandfather had a friend of his. They were fishing at night up at our camp many, many years ago. It was probably back in the 50s, and they're in a little John boat. There was three of them in the boat, and they were fishing under a cypress tree, and pitch dark, alligators everywhere. And one of the guys hangs his fishing pole in the tree and starts shaking it. Well, when he does that, a water moccasin falls out into the boat.
Oh my God!
Well, instead of getting rid of the water moccasin, he decides to dive into the lake where all the other stuff is. And so, yes, moral to the story there is, would you rather get bit by a moccasin or eaten by a gator?
You know what? I have sympathy for him because I have a unreasonable, unrational fear of snakes myself.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of snakes either.
So, I mean, with that, he will have a sympathetic year with me. So, I mean, I'll be like, I totally understand why you chose that course of action because it made sense to me. It's snakes or an alligator, I probably would choose an alligator. I don't know what it is.
Alligator can smile at you.
I don't know what it is about a snake. It's just the way that doggone thing slithers is, no, I can't do it. So, but, this is a real good topic, and we're talking about various forms of liability. But if you need to call your if you're listening and you believe you have full coverage. Most people say I have full coverage, and they believe that full coverage means it covers everything. No, it doesn't. Full coverage means full coverage to the extent of your policy. So got a real tragic story one time, and I'm gonna tell this when I come back. So I want to talk about uninsured motors. So we're gonna get back at that when we get back. Going to the commercial break. The story is a real tragic one. Young lady we represented got hit and received some really catastrophic injuries. And her medical bills totaled into the hundreds of thousands. Well, the person who hit her only had a $25,000 policy. So, at that point, like Brett said, all we were able to do an asset search and come up and do it. Once we did the asset search, we determined that this person didn't have any assets beyond their policy. And so we looked at her insurance and like the example Brett gave, we only had a 25 uninsured motorist, so it offset. So we only had a $25,000 policy for a young lady with catastrophic injury. So we had to work it out. Spent the overwhelming majority of our time trying to get the hospitals and the medical providers to waive their bills, which we did successfully, and we waived our fee and let the client keep the money. But this is a cautionary tale if you're listening that you need to, if you can afford to. You can only do what your budget allow you to do. But if you can afford to get higher uninsured motorists, you need to get it. So, and that's where I'll lead at. And so, Brett, you got anything else on that topic?
No, I agree, because there's a lot of folks out there that either driving with the minimum limit policy or no policy at all.
No policy at all.
And yes, the law is that you got to have insurance to drive, but there's a lot of folks out there breaking that law.
Right.
So to protect yourself, it's important to have that. And get as much as you can.
And you're right about bringing up the law, because the law only requires you to have liability insurance. And that's what a lot of people, get for themselves. Like, look, I just need to be covered just in case I injure somebody else. No, you need to be covered just in case somebody injured you also. So,
well, we have a phone call from Bob, our weekly call. He had a question for you. Bob, you're on now.
Hey, Bob, how are you doing, sir?
In regard to your subject right now, the law needs to change and protect citizens from catastrophic damages due to injuries caused from automobile wrecks. And I don't know how you do it, but something needs to change there.
Well, go ahead, Bob.
My question today to y'all is sovereign immunity. It dates back to England law, which basically says the king can do no wrong. Okay. And in 2025 in Mississippi, sovereign immunity still protects Mississippi government officials to a degree.
Right.
And citizens can't sue the government at all unless the government consents to be sued.
That's correct.
Now, in y'all's professional opinion, as attorneys, that doesn't seem totally fair or right in society today. Is there a better way to do sovereign immunity or protect citizens from being able to sue the government when it comes to automobile wrecks? All the sometimes the police officers will be going to a call and hit and kill people. I've had catastrophic things happen in regard to government officials accidentally killing people in their daily activities, whether it be shootings, wrecks, or whatever. You have negligence and other things that take place. Why does the government? Why are they able to just do whatever they want to citizens in society today, still in 2025?
Okay. I think I got the gist of your question. The number one question is the states have a right to prevent themselves from being sued in their own courts. And so that's number one. But they make exceptions for that, allowing citizens to sue them. And you brought up being able to sue in some capacity, and it's called the Mississippi Tort Claims Act. And of course, there are several exemptions to the Mississippi Tort Claims Act in which the state said, look, we'll allow you to sue us for an officer running a red light and doing something grossly negligent, but you can't sue us because we didn't get around to fixing a pothole that eventually end up killing somebody. It's called discretionary immunity, and so that the state has the ability to limit how much they are sued and who can. And I think it originates from the Constitution, or under I can't even think of the name of it. But if you want to chime in,
right? But Bob's right. It's an old English common law sort of doctrine that came from the time of the kings, all the way up through. And our laws, of course, based on English common law for the most part. Right. But it's an odd thing, and I think the justifications for it are that the government should be allowed to do certain activities and not have any kind of liability for things that go wrong, so that they can take and perform certain functions of the government.
Right.
Now, is it overly broad and prevent people from holding government officials accountable sometimes? I think the answer to that question is yes.
Absolutely.
And Bob brought up the classic example that we see in the car wreck arena is a police officer who is either in a high-speed chase or doing something in his realm of work activity and causes an accident.
Right.
And there are certain situations where you can pursue a claim under the Mississippi Tort Claims Act, and then there are those where you cannot. Now,
there's a way, Bob. There's called a 1983. It's where you can sue. When we're talking about the state and you're talking about its officials, you can sue them in federal court when you claim that they have.
Yeah, it's a 1983 act. It's,
right.
83. That's what's used in federal court.
That's right. That's right.
And another thing, real quick, you brought up the pothole.
Yes.
First thing that comes to my mind was Tom Fortner. I believe Tom Fortner used to be in the legal profession, or still is, in the Mississippi Jackson area.
Mm-hmm.
His daughter, I think, was a senior at.
That's the case I'm thinking about with Jackson Academy.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about because my kid goes to Jackson Academy, and there was a young lady, and that's why I brought up the pothole.
Mm-hmm.
Young lady just graduated or in the process of graduating.
Right.
And didn't make it to her graduation. She hit a pothole, car flipped, and the young lady died. So
right,
yeah,
and the Supreme Court of the state, I think, recently addressed some liability in that particular case. I think with the company that maybe did some of the work, or something along those lines.
Well, I know there's a couple of decisions out there, like the Wilshire decision about the governmental entity causing the danger itself, and you can't. Now, it's one thing not to fix a pothole, but it's another thing to cause the pothole and then leave it there for the public to deal with. But yeah, that story, I remember that story. That was a very tragic story. And
Hey guys, real quick, Judge Hilburn's dad was at a red light, I think, or coming through a green light, but the fire truck ran the red light and hit his dad. And I think Judge Hilburn used to be a circuit court judge in Hinds County, and he had to sue the government for 4 or 5 years, and his maximum he got for the fire truck killing his dad was $200,000.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but that seems very little for a life in today's society.
Yeah, I mean we have caps of $500,000 that you can recover from a government entity, and
Hey guys, y'all have a good week, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Bob.
For your time.
Hey, Bob, thank you for always calling in and asking great questions. Thank you. But yeah, it's the Mississippi Tort Claims, and like other states, all states have some form of Tort Claims Act that allow them to be sued, but $500,000 is a small amount of money.
Right, and that is the cap on non-economic damages, correct? I mean, there's no cap on the medicals. The medicals,
right. But if I lost my arm and they only spent $20,000 to patch it up, I mean,
right. And other states have higher caps. I think we probably have one of the lowest caps. Some states have thrown out theirs and said they're unconstitutional.
Right.
Caps on damages.
And good for them. We need that. We need our state to follow suit. All right. We are about to go to a commercial break. We'll back off. When we come back, we'll finish on our topic, uninsured motorists and you. For our final block here, I hope you learn a lot about uninsured motorists. I hope that you get on the phone and call your agent today and say, hey, what type of coverage do I have? I mean, Gerald told me I need to have more, and Brett gave me examples of why I should have more uninsured motorists. And get in contact with your carrier, and if you don't have uninsured motorists, please add it to your policy. So I'm gonna wrap that topic up, and anything else interesting going on in the world, Brett? Did you hear about the Delta? They're talking about implementing a curfew.
I did hear about that. Yeah, I guess was it related to
crime?
Some crime. Yeah,
they want to implement a curfew to get these young kids out the streets up there in Delta. I fully support that. Yeah. I hope they do it. The question is legality, but their curfews have been passed and tested in courts, and they pretty much stood the court.
And sometimes they're needed.
Yeah, I mean, the saddest case is a young football player, I believe, Texas A&M. Lost his life just at home visiting and got shot. Now, why the young man was out so late at night? I know young kids like to stay out late at night, but like my dad always said, ain't nothing going on good after 10 p.m.
And that's sage advice, unless you're at a Waffle House and just eating, although sometimes even that's a dangerous place to be.
It can go off at a Waffle House. But Waffle House has taken steps. Have you seen that?
I've seen that. So we go to the one on Lakeland Drive out by the Walmart, and I saw where after a certain time period, it's all takeout at these windows that they've added. Which makes sense.
We have one last call from Carol from Iuka. Question for you guys. Go ahead, Carol.
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to comment of one of the super uninsured motorists. I had a municipal policeman from a small town in Mississippi nearly killed me in 2013, and we had a witness that came forward later, within days, and saw him run the stop sign in town, and he's within yards of the police department. His shift was ending in about 4 minutes, and he was racing,
trying to get out of there. Yeah,
at a high speed in town, ran the stop sign. His vehicle wound up on the hood of my Camry.
Oh, wow.
How fast he was going. And anyway, like, long story short, I had like 2 years of my life taken away.
Mm-hmm.
And I did contact attorneys, and none of them would touch it because they said that municipalities were immune from anything, from any nothing, not even an apology. And it said, unless they were, I'm forgetting the terminology, if they were reckless, and I thought, what could be more reckless? You're right in town, speeding, running a stop sign, and it's an offset. It's an offset intersection, so it wasn't. I actually was offset. I was back the way it was. It's not a typical intersection, so he could see me coming because I had probably 30 feet that I was, coming into the right in front of him. I saw him not stopping and tried to swerve to the right to avoid him, and he wound up his car sitting on my hood.
Oh, gosh.
But it just seemed so unfair. I can understand if they were, well, it's bad if it's a high-pursuit chase, but when they're not even on call, no blue light, no reason.
Right.
No reason to be speeding in town or running a stop sign. It could have easily killed me if I wouldn't have swerved. It would have went right into my door.
Right. Now, I'm interested.
And most people, and they said it's any governmental entity. It wasn't just the policeman. So now I'm terrified. I'm terrified. I don't even want, I want the policeman, if I'm at a four-way stop, I want the policeman to get out of my way because I'm afraid they're going to hit me.
Right.
And, it just seems like a law that needs tweaking.
I would, if you don't mind, would you share the resolution of your case, how it resolved?
Oh, no. Well, for the first 2 years, I didn't do anything because I thought I was going to die. I won't go into the details of the injury, but I wasn't doing anything except hoping, just going to a neurologist for the head injury.
Right.
And that was it. After 2 years, State Farm paid some of the medical bills. And we didn't, when you're dealing with a medical thing, you're not organizing your anything. You're just surviving.
Right. You were focused on your health.
So nothing.
Yeah.
I contacted several reputable lawyers, and they said they wouldn't. There's nothing we could do.
Yeah.
There was nothing. And
well, I wonder.
That was in 2013. But I almost want to warn people.
Right.
If you get hit by a garbage truck, a fire department, anything, you're totally. It's like hitting an uninsured motorist. And your uninsured doesn't pay either. Right.
Well, I'm glad you called and you shared that story with us. And look, next week, hopefully you call back in and we can talk about this more. We're at the end of our show, and I want to thank you for calling in. And I hope that you had that you've been able to heal from that accident. And thank everybody who called in, and also everybody that listened. So this has been a great show. It's been good doing. Brett, I'm glad that you've been here with us. Thank you.
Thanks for letting me tag along.
All right.